Module 4, Tutorial C. We are going to build a custom map with D3 of Iowa landforms and other things. So let's have at it, right? And I'll explain all the things as we go. So the very first thing we want to do is we want to set up a folder to work in, right? This is kind of our custom code setup, custom map, I'll call it. It doesn't really matter what you call it. Open it up in VS Code. God, I'm so sick of getting rid of those stuff, but okay. There we are. Now what do we need, right? Well, we need an index.html. This is where our main HTML page is going to be. Why didn't it not add it? Well, let's just try that again. Oh, there it goes. I don't know what was happening there. Then we need, let's actually work cleaner. We've been throwing all of our styles and JavaScript on the HTML page. Let's work cleaner today. Let's go to styles.css. Let's make another file called script.js. And let's make another folder. Let's make a folder called data inside here. And that is going to hold all of our GeoJSON that we're going to use. All right. So what do we need? We're going to need some geographic data. Now, in the previous tutorials, we've been using geographic data this whole time, right? Any map is geographic data, unless it's an image map. And we had uploaded, right, Johnson County to Flourish. Where do you get these things, right? Well, the truth is, like, there's lots of entities who make these official things, and you shouldn't be drawing your own map of Iowa, your own map of Iowa City, right? You should use some authoritative entities map data, right? And so map data doesn't just have to be administrative boundaries. When we say administrative boundaries, we mean states, nations, municipalities. It could be anything, right? A lot of times, right, obviously, like geologists and other people are using this data. And so that's kind of what we're going to do here. We're going to use some landform data. So if you click on the link here, right, you'll see where I downloaded this data, right? So, right, you could have just Googled, like if you are looking for something, you could have been like landform Iowa shapefiles. I always put shapefiles there to indicate I'm looking for geographic data. This will usually get you both shapefiles or GeoJSON. You could always actually just look specifically for GeoJSON. I think most stuff is going to wind up being in shapefiles, and we'll look at those in a second. But anyhow, if you go here and you open the document, this is real weird, because then you got to click this open to actually download the landforms.zip. But I also included it in our icon download, so you can go there and unzip it, or you could download your own copy and check out what's in it, right? So there's all these things in it. There's these landform regions, then there's this inlier lineated. I don't know what this stuff is. I have looked through this stuff. Well, all we need is the regions here. We don't care about this other stuff. But here's something else to note. This is actually a shapefile. So a shapefile actually needs a lot of other files to work. And technically, I actually don't need all of these. This one just happens to have a lot. So how do you open it and look at it? And you could open some software like ArcGIS or QGIS is the open source equivalent. But much more handy for us online is mapshaper.org. So we need to drag our stuff into here. So we're going to drag not just the .shap thing, or it won't work. We're going to grab just everything that has that same name and whatever extension it has. Technically, we don't need all of these, but MapShaper will figure it out for us. We'll throw those in there, and boom! Look at that. Look at those landform lobes, as they're known. That's our data. That's the data we have, and that's what it looks like projected, because shapefiles, well, data has like a projection and stuff. We could look at it different ways. Like if I put on this base map here, notice the Iowa changed a little bit because it gets into Mercator, right? A base map like this is usually used, like in a Slippy map, is usually Web Mercator. We turn that off, right? We go back to this. Okay, great. So we have our thing. Let's make sure we're going through our page, our web page, to make sure we're getting everything. So we've uploaded and seen it. So what do we have to do? Well, we have to know where we're going to use this. Because while we could have just put this into software, we might be able to upload it as is to web platforms like Mapbox. We're going to use it in a JavaScript library known as D3. And D3 is awesome, right? This is D3. It's kind of, it stands for Data-Driven Documents. It was the JavaScript library for doing data work for the longest time. It's a little finicky on how it wants you to prep the data. And so you'd have to go looking for how to do that, but I'll tell you, right? So let's go to our console over here. So what we need to do is D3 wants a certain projection. And so if we type -proj, and then we have to decide which projection it is, well, it wants a specific one. It's called WGS84. And when I hit enter, you're going to be like, ew, that doesn't look like Iowa. And it's like, no, I mean, it's one way of projecting the Iowa data. This is just the projection that D3 expects your data to be prepped in. So if you download any shape files or anything, the first thing you want to do is just make sure it's in that if you're going to be using it in D3, right? So that was simple as that, right? Okay. Next things what we want to do is why don't we jump? I'm going to jump ahead in the instructions here. Is let's check out. Let's grab this little arrow here and say inspect features. And as we roll over them, you'll see that there's data built into these features here, right? So it has this landform R, acres, hectares. For simplicity, we want to add some data for us to make tooltips. So I am going to say, oh my God, I'm blanking on it. Oh yeah, each, right? -each, that means all of your features, go through them, and we're going to put in quotes, tooltip equals landform R. So now that landform R, when I was going over these, you'll notice, right, it has that. We're just basically mapping those two together. We're actually adding a new column and making the file a little bigger, but it's going to just make our lives easier in the end. I hit enter, and then when I mouse over, you'll see, right? You'll see the tooltip is the same value as landform M. Great. Don't need any. Well, we're going to come back to that console. I'm going to close it for a second. I'm going to turn that off because that's driving me crazy. The next thing we want to do is, well, when you download maps, right, they'll come in different resolutions. Like how much Latin long does it have, so that as you get in, right, how well resolved is it to actual land? So if we just go and export this as a JSON and we say export, you'll see it's going to come out as 2.7 megabytes. Now remember, we're serving this over the web, and is 2.7 megabytes huge? The answer is, well, it's not super huge, but it's still, you know, big enough, right? We can go ahead and kind of clean up this resolution here and to make it so it's fine. And I might have done this before I changed the projection, but I think actually if you hit the change of projection, it'll go back to not being simplified. So I'm going to, oops, what did I do there? No, go away, console. I'm going to go to simplify. I'm going to turn on this prevent shape removal because we never want there to be something removed. And then I'm going to just leave it on this Vizsla Vallingham, the guy who wrote the algorithm, weighted area. And then you could start pulling this down and watching your map. Now, obviously, we don't want to go to 0% because that no longer looks like Iowa, right? So we can go and see where are we happy with the resolution. I think generally for web work, you know, with a big resolution like this, you could get, well, I guess I can't say there's a generally because you never know what resolution you're going to get. For this one, I would say 10% looks great, and then I'll hit simplify. Now I can go to export. Well, first let me get rid of this landform regions.json. I am going to go to export. I'm going to go to geodata. I'm actually going to change this to just lobes so that it downloads as lobes.json. And I'm going to hit export. And right, so now we have lobes.json, only 534 kilobytes. How wonderful. Now, before we close this, we actually, right now we don't have the full Iowa. If we turn on and off lobes, which we might do later, right, we would have big holes. So we want we're going to make a separate GeoJSON that's going to become the background of just Iowa for us. So we need to open up our console again. And for that, we need to use what's called the dissolve command. And look, it put that all together for us. Now, here's the thing. If we just export it now, it's going to come as only geometries. It's not going to have a feature collection. A feature collection has to have attributes. And so if I go to my inspect feature, you'll see this layer is missing attribute layer. So let's go ahead and use the selection tool to grab, we only have one feature anyhow. Say edit data. We'll add a field. We'll just call it name Iowa just to have something in there. Apply it. Now we could add as many as we want, but we don't have to. Now I'll just say, okay, let's get out of that. And now I can go to export. I'm going to change that layer name to Iowa. Make sure it's GeoJSON. Hit export. And there we have it. All right, so we're done with Map Shaper. I'll go ahead and close it. I'll close that too. Close that too, close that too, and get back to our thing here and make sure I did everything. Yes, I did. Okay, so let's move those into our folder here, our data folder. So I'm going to grab them and do this. Now here's the thing. It has file extensions of .json, and that's fine for GeoJSON, but for your own sake and for how I wrote the script, right, we want to actually change the name here. Okay, so what is going on? Okay, why did After Effects start opening? That is a bummer. Let me not stop the video and just do this real quick. There we go. Okay, yeah, go away. I guess I somehow double clicked on it, right? Oh my God, stop. So what we want to do is change this to GeoJSON. Why would After Effects use, I don't know. Anyway, make sure yeah, I want to use GeoJSON, right? So we usually change these to this, to even just to indicate that this is a GeoJSON file. There it is. That is wonderful, right? So they're really interoperable, right? But GeoJSON, again, is just a very specific type of JSON, like kind of a pattern of JSON. Okay. We've got these set up. Let's also say, what if we couldn't find some data? And we're like, oh, we want to mark this mountain range. We want to mark this point. We want to mark this area, right? Well, we could draw our own. And how do you do it? Probably the best way to do this is to go on another great web tool, geojson.io. And so here, right, we can go in, or we could use a search, right, and say, find me Iowa. Boom. I am really close into Iowa, right? Get out of there. And I'm going to zoom out. I don't know whose house I'm on in Iowa. Probably someone who lives in the dead center of Iowa, the centroid of Iowa. Okay, here we go. Now I can see Iowa. And I'm going to go ahead and add some features to what we're going to export, right? Because look, we have a feature collection, but there's nothing in there yet, right? So let's add a point. Maybe I'm going to go down here, add a point below Iowa City. I'm going to grab this right here, this line, and I'll just do like boom, 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 boom. Now to get out of it, I hit escape. Now you could go in here and really fix it up. You can zoom in. Every time you touch something, it adds another thing, right? So you could draw a line any way you please. And then let's lastly draw an area. Now an area could be a polygon. It could also just be a rectangle and a circle. And those are actually really smaller because you only need really 4 points for these. But we're going to do a polygon, and I'll just go down here and just kind of start drawing it. When you're happy, you don't have to close it. You just hit escape. It'll stay closed. Again, you can go in here and edit it any way to shape you want. Maybe I'll make it like this, little Pac-Man-y looking thing. Great. So now I've got 3 features: a point, a line, and a polygon. Okay, so what do I need to do? Right now it has all the features, but they need some attributes, right? So that's our table data. And now you've seen this too, right? Do you remember when you uploaded Johnson County, there was all that other information in your Flourish spreadsheet, data sheet? Well, that's this attribute data. So I'm going to add a column. I'm just going to call it tooltip because that's really all we need. And I'll make some space here, man. Come on. Are you not going to open for me? How about this? Will you go this way? There you go. Come on, baby. That's right. I'm being terrible to a computer. All right. Well, I can't get it to open up for some reason. I could just do that to work in something bigger. This was the point, right? So we'll call this the Iowa City hump, right? Instead of the Iowa City dump, we'll pretend it's some kind of a land thing. Line string, we'll call this, what am I by? I'm by Boone. We'll call this the Boone range, right? I don't know, we're pointing out a line of ranges. And this area, we'll call this, well, you can call anything you want. Oh, Griswold. I just watched European Vacation and Regular Vacation, National Lampoons. So Griswold, the Griswold, I don't know, marsh. I don't know what it is. Oh, you know what? No, Griswold sinkhole. Yeah, there we go. I'm pointing out a sinkhole. Great. So I've got some data here. Why would you not open? You're driving me crazy, man. Anyway, we come back to our JSON. You'll see how it kind of goes, right? Properties, tooltips, right? So that's great. That's what we need to have. Let's export it. We'll truncate the coordinates because we don't need to be super precise. We obviously want GeoJSON. We'll hit export. I'll call this custom-features. I'll make sure it goes in our data folder that we put the other GeoJSONs. Hit save. Great. And now I could go ahead and take out GeoJSON. Another thing you could have done in GeoJSON is upload a GeoJSON, start with that, and then manipulate the stuff, just as an FYI. All right. We did it. We have our data layers set up. But now we got to start building our visualization. Now you might stop there because you might take those data layers and then put them into Mapbox or QGIS or something else. But we're going to need to display this in with JavaScript with D3 so we can do some custom things with it, right? So for the rest of this, it's mostly just cutting and pasting the code, but I want to stop and explain stuff because we're midway through the semester at this point, and you should be getting more and more familiar with code. So the first thing we need to do is what's going to be an index.html, right? And so, right, we had to link our style sheet because the style sheet isn't in the HTML, right? It's a separate file. Then we have what we're actually going to have. So you see we have just like a header and paragraph. Then we have this. This is a little checkbox that will allow us to turn on and off our custom features that we build. We'll have this div, that's the map. That's where we're going to have D3 build our map, and D3 will build this as an SVG, as you're going to see. Then we have a tooltip, right? We're going to have to put in some of that. We want to have a tooltip, so we'll build it in there. Then we need to load D3, right? So we're using JS Deliver. We've seen that already. And then we need to call our script, which has to be after D3, right? Because we're going to rely on D3. So that's it. We'll just grab this, copy, go back over to VS Code, paste it into index.html, hit save, and we'll hit go live so we can watch the magic happen, right? And so here it is. This is all we have for now. We obviously don't have the map built. So that's what we need to do next. All right. So why don't we wedge in the CSS before we start going here. We might write the CSS second if we were building this more inline, but I've already kind of done this. So here we go. Here's our styles. Hit save, right? We put them in style.css, right? Not in our head. Then the next thing, right? The next things is going to go into script.js, right? And so this is what we'll have to work through for a lot of the rest of this here. Okay, so, whoops, where did I go here? There we are, section 9. So the first thing we're going to do is actually create the SVG with D3. That's how D3 works. D3 mostly works by creating SVGs. And we saw in our bird wing skeleton thing how an SVG looks, right? Again, it looks a lot like HTML. And of course, JavaScript can create any kind of HTML type object with all of its attributes. So really what this is doing is this is just creating a certain size to expect the map to be. It's then in here creates an SV. It grabs that ID of that div that we made up here, right? And it says, hey, in there, whoops, where am I at? Go put in an SVG, give it these attributes, right? This will use these to make the width and height. We'll have, just some accessibility stuff thrown in. This is also for accessibility, right? A title. This is a description, right? Because we can add those things for accessibility in an SVG. And then lastly, if you remember in the wings, we had used SVG groups to like combine things together. We're going to do the same thing here. Each of those 3 data GeoJSONs, we're going to make their own layer. That's a SVG group. All right, great. Copy and go to script.js and paste, right? And let's go back and look at our page. Nothing happened, or did nothing happen? Because if I actually inspect with this, you'll see there actually already is an SVG in there. It's just we haven't drawn it completely yet, but there is indeed an SVG inserted into our page. All right. So the next thing we need to do then is go get those data sets we did, right? Now, here's the thing about JavaScript. It executes extremely quickly. So if we were to like, hey, go get this, and it could try to run code before it actually gets it because it'll be slower to go get it off the server. So we use these things called promises, where it's like, hey, go get this, and when you finally get it, run these functions, right? So what we're doing here is we're saying, get these 3 files from where they exist, and then once it's done, we pass those 3 files in, and then we'll call some function, and if something goes wrong, we'll say something went wrong. So we'll copy it, paste it down here, save, go check out what's going on here, and absolutely nothing. Here's a console error. Scaled to load. Draw map is not defined script. Why? Well, okay, it's trying to call this. So it is working here, but we don't have this draw map function built, which is then going to be next, right? So here we have the next set of code. Now, this is one function. You'll see this. This is just a helpful function for us to what's called slugify. Basically, kind of clean up what something, how something's written, basically. But this is the important thing. This is the draw map. So that's what we call a utility function. It's kind of a convenience for us. This is draw map. That's the one that we need to run. And that's what's going to make our map actually draw. So you see we're passing in 3 things. It's going to be those 3 data sheets, right? These are called parameters or arguments, right? And so first we're calling this. We're saying, hey, this is the projection we want to use. Remember how we changed it to WGS84? Well, we're going to use GeoAlbers USA as our projection for drawing our map so it doesn't look like that ugly WGS84 kind. And this is just kind of telling it how to handle drawing it without the, like, this is like, basically we're passing in that we want it to basically be focused on Iowa, right? This is kind of complicated. You'd have to read the D3 documentation to get all this. Then we're going to create what's called a path generator. And so this is, what happens is you get, right, your GeoJSON is just this array of latitude, longitude points. So we have to kind of convert those to pixels in the drawing area, right? This is what's happening there. And then we go through each of our data sheets and draw what we need, right? So we draw all paths with the Iowa layer, all paths with the lobe layer, and then we have more than just paths here, right? We actually have some points and some lines and things in this, right? So we won't draw, we're not going to draw paths there, right? Okay, so I'm going to grab this and I'm going to copy it and go to my script.css or script.js, paste it in, save it, go back and look at what's happening. Oh no, what is happening here? That does not look like Iowa. What is happening? And this is something that you will very rarely encounter. Well, actually not rarely, but it happens with shapefiles you find online. Remember, I said D3 wants things a certain way. And it actually matters kind of what order those latitude and longitude lines are drawn. It can go clockwise or counterclockwise. So older shapefiles will generally go one way, and D3 expects it the other way. So what we have to, so again, that's like super confusing. Like you won't always see that. But if you see that, now you'll know what the problem is, right? What we have to do is what's called rewind, right? Change it from clockwise to counterclockwise or vice versa. I can never remember what it is, right? So this is simple, right? We can fix, now we could have actually gone back to MapShaper, uploaded our things and reversed them there with the console, but let's just do it in the JavaScript, right? So 2 ways you could do it. So we're going to grab this function called fix winding, right? And this will actually do it. I'm going to put it above draw map. Why am I going to put it above draw map? Well, because draw map calls it, so it's nice to keep things in order, like you should define something before you call it. And then I'm going to add these into draw map, right? So we have to go inside of our draw map function, and I am going to, right? I'll just put it between this and that, right? We could have put it first. It doesn't really matter. We'll go back, hit return, and there it is, except for it's teeny tiny, right? Did I mess something up here? I must have messed something up here. All right. I'm going to pause this and come right back. All right, I figured it out. So basically, right, I had put this down here because I thought it would be fine down there. But then I see this. This is talking about it matters sometimes where you place things. So this is this, right? So we don't want to have that called afterwards. So I'll take that and I'll make sure this is first in this function here. Just make it look nice. And now when I go back, there it is, a correct Iowa. Great. Everything's looking spiffy. And right, all of these things were set with CSS, and we could definitely go change things as we want to, and maybe we'll do that at the end. All right. What are we doing? That's the next thing what we'll do now. We'll customize individual lobe colors. So remember that slugify. Basically, let's go look in this. Like I'm going to click on this. I'm going to say inspect. Oh no, I want to inspect, not view source. Inspect, right? You'll see that's a path, and that path has a class of lobe, and it has, right, that slugified thing as a class name too. So we can use those class names to change the colors to any way we want, right? By now in the class, hopefully you know, right, at least changing colors in CSS, right? And so each one of these has, so there's already in the code a Des Moines color because you see we've colored it. Let's color a different lobe. Let's color the, this one is the drift. I forget what it's called. Let's inspect it. Right, this is the Southern Iowa Drift Plain. Oh, there already is a fill there. Did I put in? I don't think I put in ones for all of them. Let's go to inspect. The Low S Hills. Oh, good. See, the Low S Hills doesn't have a color yet, right? So let's grab Low S Hills. Let's go back to our styles.cs. Right here, we can put all the colors here, right? So if I put in dot Low S Hills, right, a class is dot. And now how do you color an SVG object? This is where it's a little different. Remember, we use background-color for a HTML item. Well, for a SVG item, you use fill. And so I'll say FFCC00 and make it like, I think that's like a yellow color. There it is. Hit that there. And there's our Low S Hills, right? So you can go ahead and make anything colored any way you would like. All right, so now we need to get some of that interactivity going, right? We want to put up tooltips. We want to be able to hide our custom features. I guess we didn't really necessarily need the Iowa map, but I think it's still fine. Let's add and I showed you how to use dissolve for that. So let's add in our tooltip functionality, right? So this Again, we're still using D3. D3 is a lot like jQuery. It also has functions like help you grab things on the page, right? So you see that's what D3 select means. So we're getting our div that we created up in the beginning as, as our tooltip, right? And then operating on it, right? So what this says, which number are we on here? As step section 14, right? So we have some functions that tell us how to make the text in the tooltip. This is going to be the show tooltip event, move tooltip, show the focus tooltip, hide the tooltip, right? So we can grab all of this, copy it. We'll go to script.js. Now, where do we want this? We want it. Add this below the layer declarations, right? Again, the main thing here is we want it in front of draw map. Again, we just want to do that. So let's put it up here before the promises and after the layers. We'll throw all that in. That's fine there. And then right in the draw map, we need to add this to actually make it work. Right, so we want to be inside draw map, right? So here's our function, right? And if we close it, we see kind of where it ends. So we want to be inside this right here, and we'll paste that in there, hit save, and now when we mouse over things, right, there it is. We got us a little tooltip saying what it is. We also can mouse over our features. And there they are there too, right? Because what we did is we added it to all the lobe layers, all the custom layers stuff. I hate when it does this. There we go. Okay. And the last thing we want to do is be able to actually, turn off our custom layers, right? So for that one, we'll just simply, we have that checkbox we made, and I won't roll up to that, but remember there's a checkbox on the page. And so we grab that, and we say when it changes, run this. And what we'll do is hide the custom layers. And we're going to do that via CSS, right? So if we look in our CSS, right, you'll see an is hidden somewhere here. Custom layer is hidden, right? We kind of just hide them from being seen with the opacity and turning off being able to accidentally click on them, even if they're invisible. So we'll grab that and we will put that just right at the end of everything, hit save, and now when we come back, right, I can just toggle on and off my features. So you could do that for everything. What if we wanted to get rid of the lobes too, right? Well, we could kind of, let's call an audible. I don't even have this on this page here. So let's add that too. So how do we do it? Let's go to index. Let's grab all of this, and we'll copy it, and class, that's good. Type checkbox, feature toggle, let's call this lobe toggle, and we'll say show, right, landform lobes, right, there it is. And let's go down to script, and right, we'll just copy this, and we'll just change what we need, right? So D3 select, right, obviously, we will take, we'll turn that to lobe toggle, is hidden, right? Custom layer, nope, not custom layer, right? That is our lobe layer, right? So now when we go and we turn those off, oh, they're not moving. That's because we need to put in that CSS, right? So if we watch that, we should see something, right? The G lobe layer, we see is getting hidden. So there must be a group of that one right there, right? So that's easy enough, right? We go into styles, we find our, the same thing, right? Custom layer is hidden. Let's add after it, dot lobe, right? Is it dot lobe? Dot lobe is hidden. Oops, I made a mistake here. Let's go look in here. It's geo lobe dash layer. Okay, lobe dash layer, right? And now there it is, right? It goes away. Oh, but that makes Iowa look so ugly. It doesn't have a background. So we should put in a background color for Iowa, right? So let's go looking for Iowa here. Do we have anything already with Iowa in it? .iowa, we've got this fill. So let's change that fill to just a gentle green, right? Save it. Well, that wasn't super gentle. That's actually pretty eye-searing. Let me go there. All right. Right? Doesn't matter, right? Still kind of searing, a little too saturated, but whatever, right? It works now. And now we have, right, anything we want. We want to turn off the custom features. We want to turn off the landform lobes, right? Again, that is using custom map data. So that is it. That is going ahead and building a custom map.